My name is Sophia. I'm 32 years old, and until last Thanksgiving, I was the exemplary daughter who funded my ungrateful parents' lifestyle with almost $30,000 a year. But that night, after my dad yelled at me to get out of his life in front of the whole family, I went home and, with a chilling calm, dismantled the house of cards I had built for them. What I didn't expect was the pandemonium that would erupt the next morning, complete with police at the door and threats of a lawsuit. This story is an emotional roller coaster. If you, like me, believe that those who sow ingratitude are bound to reap what they sow, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because you won't want to miss a single detail of what happened next. It all started in a small suburban town in Michigan. My parents, Helena and Ricardo, always made one thing very clear in our house. There were two children, but only one was the trophy. My younger brother, Leo, now 27, was the sun around which our small family universe revolved. I noticed this even before I knew how to tie my shoelaces. I vividly remember, at 7 years old, him getting a brand new bicycle with colorful ribbons on the handlebars for getting a C on his report card. Meanwhile, my A's, earned with hours of study, got me a pat on the head and a dry, keep it up. This pattern became the soundtrack of our childhood. Leo had the bigger room, the brand name clothes, the loudest applause at school games. I, on the other hand, became the reliable daughter, the invisible rock that kept everything in order, but who never shone brightly enough to outshine the household's star. I accepted my role. It was easier than fighting the tide. The big turning point, the moment the ground opened beneath our feet, came when I turned 18. My father, Ricardo, a man who had dedicated 20 years of his life to the same auto factory, was laid off. A cost-cutting measure, they said. For me, it was the sound of our world collapsing. My mother, Helena, worked part-time as a receptionist, but her salary barely covered groceries. Our finances spiraled. I had my college acceptance letter in hand, a dream about to come true, when reality hit me like a runaway train. Unlike Leo, who was still in high school and shielded from the storm, I had to fend for myself. It was 4 years fueled by caffeine and determination. I took out every student loan I could, and my routine was insane. I waited tables during the morning shift, cataloged books at the campus library in the afternoon, and typed data until my fingers ached in my tiny dorm room at night. I barely slept, barely saw daylight, but I was building my future.
While I was drowning in responsibilities, Leo continued to be the focus of any resources my parents managed to gather. When it was his turn to go to college 3 years later, they moved heaven and earth. They took out a second mortgage on the house, a financial risk that made my hair stand on end, to ensure that their golden boy wouldn't go through what I did. By some miracle, I graduated with a degree in computer science. After 6 months of relentless job hunting, I landed a position at a rapidly growing tech company. At 24, I was earning a 6-figure salary. For the first time in my life, I felt the air fill my lungs without the weight of debt. I could breathe. And that's exactly when my parents' phone calls became more frequent. Initially, they were checking in on me, but soon the tone of the conversations shifted. It was the bills that kept piling up, the threat of losing their house, their retirement savings evaporating. Guilt began to gnaw at me. How could I be so comfortable while they, who raised me, were going through such hardship? Driven by a mix of love and obligation, I offered to help. What started as occasional aid, a little help to cover a bill here and there, quickly turned into an unpaid second job. In less than a year, I was paying their $800 mortgage, $400 in utility bills, water, electricity, gas, and another $600 for the financing of their 2 cars. They never explicitly asked me to take this on permanently, but there was always a new emergency, a new reason why they needed help just for this month. Help turned into expectation. Choice turned into obligation. Meanwhile, Leo was the epitome of entrepreneurial failure. First, a drop-shipping business that went bust in 6 months. Then the brilliant idea of a food truck that never actually got a truck. And to top it all off, a cryptocurrency investment scheme that cost them almost $15,000 of their already dwindling savings. And with each failure, my parents became his biggest defenders. Leo just needs one big break, my mom would say. He has so much vision, my dad would boast to the neighbors, barely mentioning the stable career of the daughter who was literally keeping the lights on in their house. My best friend Clara was the only one who saw the situation clearly. "Sophia, they're using you," she told me bluntly during one of our wine nights. "You realize that, don't you? It's almost $10,000 a year just for the basics. And what do you get in return? Not even a sincere thank you." "They're my family, Clara," I'd reply, but the justification sounded increasingly hollow to my own ears. Am I supposed to let them lose their house?
"There's a fine line between helping and being the family ATM," she'd retort, and deep down, I knew she was right. But admitting that meant facing the painful truth about the people I loved most. So I kept paying. I kept waiting for recognition that never came. The moments of ingratitude were like small paper cuts, which alone seemed like nothing, but together they made me bleed. For my mom's 60th birthday, I spent $2,000 on a surprise trip for them to Chicago. Luxury hotel, theater tickets, dinner at a Michelin-starred restaurant. When they returned, the only thing I heard was about how Leo had called her and written the most beautiful card ever. My monumental gift was summed up with a "it was nice," before the conversation inevitably shifted back to my brother's latest genius idea. The last straw, however, came when my dad needed surgery. I took 2 weeks off, unpaid, to care for him. I cooked, cleaned, drove him to appointments, organized his medications. At the end of my stay, as I was packing my things to go home, he complained that I had organized his pill box the wrong way, and that Leo would have done better if he weren't so busy with his business meetings. Meetings which, as I later discovered, were poker games with his friends. I felt a cold pang in my chest, a mix of anger and exhaustion. Despite everything, I lived modestly. I drove a car that was almost a decade old and put off my own dream of home ownership. In my living room, a large glass jar labeled Parents' Emergency Fund was a constant reminder of my responsibility. Clara called it the guilt jar. "Spend that money on therapy," she'd say, "to figure out why you let them treat you like an ATM with legs." Looking back, I should have listened to her every word much sooner. The morning of Thanksgiving arrived gray and cold, a perfect reflection of my state of mind. I had spent days preparing for dinner, which, after a last-minute change of plans imposed by my mom, would be at their house. I had spent almost $400 on an organic turkey, fresh ingredients, and expensive wines. I loaded my car with platters of food, decorations, and the increasingly faint hope that maybe, just maybe, this year would be different. As I parked in front of the modest house whose modest siding I paid to maintain, I took a deep breath. That house's mortgage came out of my account on the first day of every month. I practiced positive affirmations all the way there. Today they'll see. Today they'll be grateful. But the reception I got at the door was a cold splash of reality. My dad opened the door, barely glanced at the heavy bag straining my arms, and said, "You're blocking the driveway. Leo will need to park there when he gets here." "Good morning to you too, Dad," I muttered, walking past him. He eyed me up and down. "Is that car outside new? Looks too fancy for someone your age." It was a simple sedan, the first new vehicle I had ever bought after my old college car literally died on the highway. I felt the need to justify myself, to explain that I needed something reliable for work, and I hated myself for it. My mom appeared in the kitchen with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "My, look at you all dressed up," she said, gesturing to my simple dress. "Some of us have been cooking since 6 in the morning. Didn't have time for all that." "I brought everything pre-prepared, Mom," I replied, holding up the bags. Just need the oven. I spent the next 2 hours in the kitchen alone, orchestrating the feast while my parents watched football in the living room. When Leo arrived, empty-handed, he was greeted with hugs and exclamations of, "The man of the hour!" I, the kitchen witch, as he called me mockingly, remained invisible. "The initial investment isn't even that high," Leo said, gesturing with his fork. "Just $40,000 for the prototype." My dad puffed out his chest. "Family has to support each other's dreams. We can use our savings." I almost choked. Their savings were what was left of their retirement fund, already dangerously low. I tried, with all the calm I could muster, to bring a shred of reality to the conversation. "Leo, the fitness app market is extremely saturated. The failure rate is over 90%. "Here she goes again," my mom said, rolling her eyes. "Always the killjoy." That's when the dam broke. "I'm not ruining anything." My voice came out louder than I intended. "I work in tech. I'm trying to prevent you from throwing the rest of your retirement into another doomed project." "What do you mean, another project?" Leo fumed. "You're just jealous because I take risks and you have a boring corporate job." "Jealous?" The word echoed in the room. "You want to talk about support? Do you know who has actually supported this family for the last 8 years? Me. The mortgage, the utilities, the cars, all of it comes out of my pocket. Almost $30,000 a year. For 8 years, almost $250,000. Money that could have been the down payment on my own house, an investment in my future. Money that bought me nothing but contempt." That's when it clicked. Almost everything was in my name. With my dad's words echoing in my mind, "Paying bills doesn't make you family." My hands moved with surgical precision over the keyboard. I started canceling everything, one by one. The automatic mortgage payment, cut. The utility bills, transferred back to their names. The car payments, canceled. The insurance, discontinued. For each service, a formal email notifying them of the change of responsibility. Then the digital services. I changed the passwords for all digital streaming platforms, removed their devices from my account. The smart security system I installed myself, remote shutdown initiated. With each click, each closed account, I felt a weight, one I didn't even know I was carrying, lift from my shoulders. This wasn't revenge. It was liberation. It was me, finally, putting myself first. I turned off my phone, took a sleeping pill, and passed out, free for the first time in almost a decade. I woke up the next morning with a sense of lightness that lasted until I turned on my cell phone. I was bombarded. 37 missed calls, 52 text messages, multiple emails. The chaos had begun. The first voicemail was from my Aunt Beatrice, in panic. "Sophia, call me. Your parents' house is a mess. Everything's shut off. The alarm went off and they can't turn it off. Your dad called the police. Thinks he's been hacked." The next was from Leo, furious. "What the hell did you do? The car was towed this morning. I had an important meeting. Fix this now." My mom's messages were a masterpiece of manipulation, shifting from rage, "Sophia Ann Morris, you call us back right now," to emotional blackmail. "Your dad is having chest pains from the stress. If anything happens to him, it'll be your fault." My dad left only one, cold and threatening. "I talked to your cousin Gustavo, the lawyer. What you're doing could be considered elder financial abuse. You have until noon to restore everything, or we'll file a lawsuit." I took a deep breath, ignored the urge to scream, and composed a single email, addressed to my parents, with copies to Leo and my aunts and uncles. "Dear Mom and Dad, last night, you made it clear that my financial contributions do not make me part of the family. Dad stated that paying bills doesn't make you family and asked me to leave and not come back. I am simply respecting your wishes. I have removed myself completely from your finances. The responsibility for all bills is now yours. Regarding the lawsuit threat, Dad, there is no legal obligation for a child to financially support their parents. All accounts were in my name.
I wish you all the best." Minutes later, my mom called, her voice trembling. "Sophia, your dad is in the hospital. His blood pressure shot up dangerously." My heart froze. For a second, guilt consumed me. But before I could grab my car keys, a message from my cousin Natalia arrived. "Just so you know, Uncle Ricardo isn't in the hospital. He and Aunt Elena are home with the police trying to claim you hacked them." The audacity of the lie took my breath away. That sealed my decision. I typed and deleted several responses to Leo's last message, which said I had destroyed the family. Finally, I settled on a single word: no. The following months were a journey of rebuilding. I started therapy. I reconnected with friends. The money that once supported my parents' lifestyle was now building my security. I opened a savings account and started a small side business. My parents had to sell their house and move into a smaller rental. My dad got a part-time job as a security guard. My mom increased her hours at the office. Leo, without his parents' funding, got a job at a sporting goods store and, according to my cousin, constantly complained that I had ruined everyone's lives. On the 1-year anniversary of that Thanksgiving, I took a trip to Chicago. I stayed at the same luxury hotel I had sent them to, and the irony was not lost on me. I was finally enjoying the fruits of my own labor. The deepest lesson I learned through this whole process was painful, but liberating. Real family isn't about obligation, DNA, or financial transactions. Real family is who sees you, values you, and loves you unconditionally. Sometimes that family is the one we're born into, but other times it's the one we choose to build. By being kicked out of the dinner table, my father, unknowingly, gave me the greatest gift of all. He gave me my own life back. Today, I am no longer the ATM or the invisible daughter. I am just Sophia. And for the first time, that is more than enough. And you all, what would you have done in my shoes? Would you have cut ties or tried one more time? Leave your opinions in the comments below. I read them all. And if you enjoyed this journey of justice, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories like this.